Minnie Thomas, 9 years old, showing average size of sardine knife used in cutting. Some of the children used a knife as large as this. Minnie works regularly in Seacoast Canning Company, Factory Number 7, mostly in the packing room, and when very busy works nights. Cuts some, also cartons. She says she earns $2 some days, packing. Sardine Canneries on the waterfront in Eastport, Maine. Folsom McCutcheon, 11 years old, has been working at the covering machines in Eastport Canning Factory, also cutting some. In the background is a typical sardine factory. Some of the cartoners, not the youngest, at Seacoast Canning Company, Factory Number 2. Elsie Shaw, a 6-year-old cartoner in the summer, Seacoast Canning Company, Factory Number 2. Her father is boss of cutting room in Factory Number 1. He asked me to take some photos of her, as he has her do a singing act in vaudeville in the winter, and she's old enough now to go through the audience and sell her own photos. 5-year-old Preston, a young cartoner. I saw him at work different times during the day at 7 a.m., in the afternoon and at 6 p.m., and he kept at it very faithfully for so young a worker. Nanda Gallant, 9-year-old cartoner, Seacoast Canning Company, Factory Number 2. Packs some with her mother. Mother and 2 sisters work in factory. One sister has made $7 in one day. During the rush season, the women begin work at 7 a.m., and at times work until midnight. Brother works on boats. Work is very irregular. Nan is already a spoiled child. George Goodell, and butcher knife used by many children. Three cutters in Factory Number 7, Seacoast Canning Company, Eastport, Maine. They work regularly whenever there are fish. Note the knives they use. Back of them and underfoot is refuse. On the right hand is Grayson Forsyth, 7 years old. Middle is George Goodell, 9 years old, finger badly cut and wrapped up. Said, the salt gets into the cut. Said he makes $1.50 some days. Left end, Clarence Goodell, 6 years, helps brother. Interior of a cutting shed in Maine. Young cutters at work, Clarence, 8 years, and Minnie, 9 years. Photo does not show the salt water in which they often stand, nor the refuse they handle. On the low shelf are 2 of the boxes used as measures, and for which they get 5 cents a box. Housing conditions in settlement at Seacoast Cannery Number 7, not very good. This is the home of the Goodell family. They live here all the year, in these temporary quarters. The father works in the mill nearby. 4 or 5 of the children are in the canneries. Group of young cutters, Seacoast Canning Company, Factory Number 2, waiting for more fish. They all work, but they waste a great deal of time, as the adults do also, waiting for fish to arrive. Wilfred Clark, 10 years old, going home at noon, after cutting 5 boxes of fish during the morning. Incidentally, he cuts his fingers. See left forefinger. 2 other boys with him had fingers badly cut and healed up. Shows the way they cut the fish in Sardine Canneries. Large, sharp knives are used, with a cutting and sometimes a chopping motion. The slippery floors and benches, and careless bumping into each other increase the liability to accident. The salt gets in the cuts and they ache. A group of young cartoners in Seacoast Canneries, Number 4, not the youngest. Phoebe Thomas, 8-year-old Syrian girl, running home from the factory all alone, her hand and arm bathed with blood, crying at the top of her voice. She had cut the end of her thumb nearly off, cutting sardines in the factory, and was sent home alone, her mother being busy. The loss of blood was considerable, and might have been serious. Phoebe's thumb, a week after the accident. She was back at the factory that day, using the same big knife. Butcher knife used by Ralph, a young cutter in a canning company, and a badly cut finger. Several children working with him had cut fingers, and even the adults said they could not help cutting themselves. Richard Mills, 8 years old, showing a severely cut finger. Minnie Thomas, a 9-year-old girl, works regularly in Seacoast Canning Company, Factory Number 7, mostly in the packing room, and when very busy works nights. Cuts some, and also cartons. Her mother said, some of the children cut their fingers half off. Her father and grandfather are in the factory. She lives in Grand Manan in the winter with her aunt, father and mother live here. She says she earns $2 some days packing, not so much when she cartons. Only made $1.70 all last week. I cut my finger nearly off, cutting sardines the other day. 7-year-old Byron. 3 young cutters who work in Seacoast Canning Company, Factory Number 4. Ages 10 to 12. Work regularly. Byron's cut finger.